Hey guys, it's Katie at scrappinkaty.ctmh.com, and today I am celebrating JQCrafty and her 1,000 subscriptions on YouTube. So I will be scrap lifting this layout of hers right here. I love the pink background and that she's made little shakers in those little flamingos. So I will be bringing over that shaker element to my rainbow layout that I have already pre-cut here using the Sawyer digital collection. Now I have used Design Space and I have cut that largest arc out of my white daisy base, and I'll be using some mulberry cardstock for the base so my shaker can be built on. And this pattern paper right here, this largest arc, I'm just going to glue down to my layout base, the mulberry one, not the white one. And that way you can see that pattern paper through the shaker window here in a second. So we've got that glued down, and then now I'm going to start preparing this white base. Now, because this is a shaker, I'm using some of the Cricut acetate sheets, and I don't want to waste all the inside of that rainbow arc, so I'm just going to cut that out right quick, and then I will start adhering some tear tape onto that white base. I am going to trim down this 12 by 12 just a tad to make sure it doesn't show. And then, like I said, the tear tape is just really easy, and I love using it because it's really strong. So I just did that all around the edges and then made sure that I've got some pretty tight ones around the inside of that arc, and taking my bone folder to make sure those are really good and adhered down. And then I'm just going to peel off the backing with some tweezers, and then we can prepare the acetate sheet. Now this acetate sheet does have a film over it, so I'm just going to peel that off, and then I'm going to flip that over onto the back side of that white daisy cardstock. Now I do have some of that tear tape at the bottom that I ended up not covering because I cut out the hole in the acetate. So I'm just going to peel one of those put one of those backing sheets that I peeled off, put it over the bottom of that just so it doesn't stick to my table surface. So to adhere the rainbow layers together, I'm just going to use some liquid adhesive. Now I love these colors together. Again, this was just pre-designed with the Sawyer collection, and this little arc is actually peach. And again, liquid adhesive is probably best for this. If you're not a liquid adhesive girl, don't worry, you can use tape adhesive. And then this one is just a pretty pattern paper. You can see that floral pattern on the back side, and then it's got some of that mint pattern or that glacier pattern on the front. And then that very tiny one is Sundance. So I've got that adhered down, and now it is time to adhere it to my already prepared shaker white daisy. I'm going to use liquid adhesive just around the edges, but otherwise tape adhesive worked just fine on those large areas. So I'm going to flip that over onto this prepared white daisy base, and you'll be able to see that I didn't quite get it lined up, but that is the glory, the beauty of embellishments. Now, these two photos of my daughter, I love them. They are using a Snapchat filter, and I loved how her purple shirt just kind of really went with the colors of the Sawyer collection. So there are two tags that I've cut out, and I can't decide whether to use both tags or if I want one tag and one just regular 4x4 base. But I have decided to use the tags, and again, it also comes with this cute little ring that goes around the tag hole, which is really cute. And the reason I chose those is because that pattern paper, that mint pattern paper, didn't really show a lot because I ended up covering it on the arc. So I love that that pattern paper is down at the bottom of the tags. Now for the shaker, I am using my big roll of 3M 3D foam tape, and I've covered all the edges and then as well as the inside of the arc. And then I am going to get ready to put that down onto my base. But first, there are a couple of things. Because of the shaker element, I wanted to use, it's so tiny, so I wanted to use some tiny little sequins. Now these are our mulberry loose gems. They almost have a diamond shape to them. but I just love the color. And then I'm going to use these iridescent flower shakers. And I am just putting those all around that little arc, making sure they stay in within that pattern paper, because that acetate and that 3D foam tape is pretty tight to that pattern paper. And then I quickly realized that part of my photo is probably going to hide some of the shaker element. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those photos down, and then that allows me to add some 3D foam tape to the portion that goes over that large arc. So in essence, I'm going to have basically two sections of shaker, and that's going to allow that bottom left portion of the rainbow arc to kind of be just smaller and not shake a whole lot. And then, of course, you've got the big arc. Now, keep in mind, this is a layout. It's not like a card, so you're not going to get the true shaker effect, but you definitely can tell when you flip the pages that there are those elements and those pretty little sequins, and then, of course, those loose gems. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one glued down, and then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm able to tell where my 3D foam tape can go on to the back side of that tag. And then little gems won't have to go past that little part, if you can tell what I mean. So I'm just going to separate those according to the back side of that layout on the left, and that way I can tell where the little break will be. And then I'm going to peel off the backing of all this. Luckily, I do the majority of this off camera, and then I'm just going to flip that over onto that mulberry cardstock base. So you can see here, voila, the shaker part is done. I love that those 12 by 12 Cricut acetate sheets made it really easy. Now I have pulled out the Sawyer thin cut. Now this is just showing you that I'm lazy sometimes, so I cut them all, but you want to make sure that you remove the insides to the banner and then that larger flower piece, so you'll have full pieces. And then this title, You're Beautiful, it also comes with the Sawyer Digital Collection. And I cut it 7 times and then just stacked it on top of each other. You won't be able to see that here, but in the still shots, you will be able to see that dimension. And then I'm going to start playing with the rest of my title. And so that suite comes from the Sawyer stamp set, and then the ampersand symbol comes from the Sawyer chipboard. And then, of course, all those flowers over there, those come from that same stamp set that the suite comes from. So I've already stamped those and, of course, inked those up off camera, and those are thin cuts, so I didn't have to fussy cut anything. And then I'm just going to apply adhesive for the dot to the I, and then the little apostrophe for the Your title. And again, those are also stacked 7 deep. So for the flowers, some are going to just be adhered with liquid adhesive, and then some 3D foam tape. I'm not sure if you can really tell, but here is where I didn't really get that rainbow lined up that much. So I'm using this flower grouping to kind of hide that. Now for this flower, I am using our 3D foam circles. It's just really easy to apply those, and I'm going to get that stuck down. And then for the center of this flower, I'm actually going to double up on these 3D foam circles, just so it'll stand up just a little bit more. And then also to add some extra dimension, I'm going to use some peach ink and a sponge and just sponge around the center of this flower. And so not only will it have the double height of the 3D foam tape, but it's also sponged, so it'll give it a little bit more dimension. And you'll be able to tell that in the still photos here in just a second. Now, for the bottom of the tags, if you are a follower of mine, you know that I just don't like random holes with nothing in them. So I'm using some stash of my thread, some thread from my stash, and I've just tied bows and then used some glue dots to adhere those down. And again, the second part of my title has got that chipboard ampersand symbol, and then the suite. Now I have used 3D foam as well as some glue dots to adhere it to the ribbon, and I am just going to hold that layout to make sure it's to make sure it's straight, and then kind of reposition that as well as reposition that ribbon tail. It just kind of looked weird just hanging down like that. And then I am going to take one of the centers to the flowers. I'm going to ink that up in that sunflower or Sundance and stamp that chipboard butterfly wings. And then I'm also going to end up bringing that stamp, that image back out along with that Sundance ink and stamp just randomly around the flowers. And the reason I'm doing that is because the Sundance arc really got hidden in all this, but I love the pop of yellow. So by bringing that stamped image back in, I'm able to capture some of that color. Now, I did decide to just add some of these iridescent flowers that I used in the shaker, just randomly around those flower groupings and the title. Now, as far as this sticker sheet from the Sawyer collection, it's got this really cute sentiment, and then it's got some little bitty tiny hearts that I'm going to put around the groupings. So my daughter's favorite thing, she's the only girl, of course, in a house full of boys, and her favorite thing is to ask, who is our favorite? And of course, my husband always tells her that she is, but I never divulge that. I always say that they're all my favorite, but I thought that I would add this little sentiment from the sticker sheet, and it does say, you're my favorite. So if she ever sees this, or when she sees this layout, she'll definitely boast that in front of her brothers because, you know, it's on her layout. So I'm just going to finish this off with some more of those little heart stickers, as well as a little grouping up at the top right for some more stickers. And then I'm just going to add a little mint heart up at the top just to bring those hearts up there. And I'm thinking about putting the date up on that. So here are the still shots. Again, I scrap lifted JQCrafty. I'll leave a link down below to all the girls playing along, as well as all the products that I used. And don't forget to head on over to her channel. If you aren't already a subscriber of mine, hit the subscribe button before you leave. But go check out her channel. She is giving away some goodies for hitting that 1,000 subscription mark. And let's help her get to 1,250 or 1,500 real fast. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching.